So I've had a full week to process and contemplate and just really marinate on my decision to review The Acolyte last week. And while the comments were flooded with shaming and telling me that I just had no idea what I was talking about and I wasn't a real fan, I just needed to give this show another chance, some more time. But everything in me said, you should stop now. Don't go further. But maybe those people were right, and maybe I need to just give this show another chance. So episode 3 is here, and I just really want to let you guys know what I think. All right, so before we get rolling, the first thing I wanted to do was make sure to tell you to go visit criticalist.com. We are an entertainment reviewing platform for talking about movies and TV shows. Most importantly, you can review them, but you can make lists, start groups, just hang out with friends in an old school format, almost like the MySpace days. And as always, make sure to subscribe, like, follow, all that fun stuff, and help us to grow this channel since we are fairly new. I want to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty, the details, the problems with this show, because I have quite a few. But one of the biggest is what I'm calling kind of the retcon effect, which is that they are kind of just retconning all of Star Wars in this one show since it takes place before everything else. So right now we are introduced to a new version of the Force, which they are calling the Thread. They are saying that, if you pull on it, and it does things and it binds you to others, but none of this is really explained. We just know that this is some other way that they view and look at the Force, but you use your friends, which brings in this weird, like, commie version of the Force. I don't really know exactly what's going on here, but you're just supposed to have friends help you and get into groups. And when there's many, then it's more special. So I don't know. This is a whole new thing. And it's not that new ideas can't be added to Star Wars, but this one's a little weird. We'll see what they do with it. Well, if I decide to watch any more of this, that is. But the other thing is, just as far as the retconning, it's like they're trying to just beat everybody to the punch by also doing everything that's been done before, but worse. Like, we've got this planet here that they're on, and, the twin suns of Tatooine, except for, we've got this weird, like, twin sun, moon, planet things off in the distance, but they're two different colors. Kind of just feels like a ripoff. Then we've got, the twin sisters here, which is, twins in Star Wars kind of been done before. Also, the fact that now we know that this lead character has been immaculately conceived by her mothers. We don't know how, but magic, so there's that. Maybe they'll explain it later. I'm sure to some degree they will. But then we've got the inconsistencies. Like, one of the biggest that's really bothering me that keeps happening is Mr. Squid Game's character. His Jedi just does not behave like a proper Jedi, especially for one that's supposed to be in charge. The way that he's coddling this young child towards the end of the episode is just a little odd. And the fact that he is bringing in a 12-year-old as a Jedi, we knew with Anakin that that was a bad idea and it shouldn't be done. And yet we're having it happen here. He should know better than that. And it's just not really addressed. And there's nothing very Jedi-like about him. He's doing a really solid job, but also, like, what is going on with this story? 12 is too old for a Jedi, and if they say that this is how they found out that that's when you're too old to be a Jedi, that's ridiculous, because there's so many other factors, like the fact that this person is immaculately conceived, I guess. And then we get into just the wackiness of, like, the fire that happens in this show, which is that one of the versions of the character, like the twins, lights a fire, and all of a sudden it is burning down this entire mountainside, which is ridiculous and doesn't make sense and happens in like 2 minutes. Now, granted, maybe there's other stuff happening, but this is how you tell a proper story. It's like you need to tease that there is other things happening, and it was not done properly or in a way that makes any kind of sense. So it's just messy. Everything is just really, really messy. Roger Ebert was once quoted as saying, "I hated this movie. Hated this movie. Hated it. Hated every simpering, stupid, vacant, audience insulting moment of it. Hated the sensibility that thought anyone would like it. Hated the implied insult to the audience by its belief that anyone would be entertained by it." Now, this comment is brilliant, because every once in a while, something stirs this level of emotion in you. And I have to say that I really think that this level of emotion is what has been stirred in me with The Acolyte, because I do hate it. I hate this show. It's not good at all. And it's a affront to Star Wars. I'm just letting it flow through me. I'm really just absorbing it at this point. And like I said, the last video that I released, the attack came, and there were plenty of you that totally got where I was coming from. Thank you. There are some people with some common sense still out there, but this show is continuing the same pattern as before. It is not good. It is not well written. It is bland and boring and full of bad writing and terrible acting. And that's what happened in episode 1 and 2. And now we are at episode 3. And the same thing is continuing. Nothing has changed. You tell me to give it more of a chance. Well, guess what? This show is 6 episodes long. I'm halfway through, and it still sucks. And it is clearly made by people that don't know anything about Star Wars, not really. Or if they do, then they don't care about it. And that's the thing. They've really just dropped the other shoe at this point with this episode. This is really where everybody said the rubber was going to meet the road, and I think that they were right. I really do, because some of the stuff in this episode was just a bit too much. And Leslye Headland is decided that this is when she's going to wear a little bit of her modern current politics on her sleeve with things like this.
We were hunted, persecuted, forced into hiding, all because some would consider our power dark, unnatural.
Now, this is where we found out that, the parents of our 2 lead characters from the first 2 episodes are raised by a coven of witches that have been sent out into the galaxy because they are just far too powerful. A group of women, and they were the lead actress's character was raised by a lesbian couple, which comes into the whole them calling the show the gayest Star Wars show ever made. And you know what? I don't care. I do not care that there was a lesbian couple in the show. It means nothing to me. Not really. It doesn't really even play a whole lot into the plot. It's just part of this story, but that's not the offensive thing. There's nothing, I'm not offended by that. What offends me is the writing, how on the nose it is, how terrible it is. Some of the things in this show are actively embarrassing. And luckily, we've actually had some press to talk about it. Believe it or not, we have an actual, industry, large scale outlet like Forbes putting out an article like this: The Acolyte, episode 3 review, one of the most disappointing Star Wars episodes ever made. And guess what? I completely and totally agree with you.
This is blasphemy. This is madness.
And a lot of what makes it bad is just the bones of it. It's the things like simple words that can't be strung together properly. Like how there's conversations between 2 characters like, the Jedi are bad. No, the Jedi are good. And then there's, what have you done? Followed by, what have you done? Followed by, what have you done? I don't know how anyone with this type of writing could get hired. How does one get a job doing things like this? Like this guy. He says, I have no words. I do have a theory, however. Imposters have taken over Star Wars and lots of other popular genre properties, from The Witcher to True Detective. Maybe they're fans, maybe they're not, but they're certainly masquerading as good storytellers. And they think they know best, making whatever changes they see fit to make their own. And that's the thing, is that people like Leslye are coming in here and they are trying to make Star Wars their own. But the thing is, Star Wars isn't just yours. It's kind of everybody's. And yes, you're allowed to play in this world, in this playground, but the audience is going to let you know if what you are doing is bad, if what you are doing is not well made. And that is what's happening here. This is something that is not well made. This is a person who is trying to completely shape Star Wars into something that it is not. And 90% of people don't want it. I mean, this thing is getting bombed. Take a look at Criticalist, please, right now. It has a 10%. And Rotten Tomatoes score also just keeps getting lower and lower. And that's pretty shocking for Rotten Tomatoes. Granted, not from the critics, because they're a bunch of shills. But I mean, I gave this a 19% last week after the first 2 episodes. This is definitely going down. I think we are somewhere in like 10 territory now after this episode, which is just a wee bit offensive. Now, we want to talk about offensive. Please just take a look at this for a moment.
Power 1, the power 2, the The power of one. The power of two. The power of many.
This might be one of the lamest things that I've ever seen in my life. One of the lamest moments in television history. The cheesiness just doesn't stop with this show. And like I said with Leslye, you know, just inserting her personal politics into this, we've reached a point where we are actually getting like Marxist views here within this show. And I just honestly couldn't really believe that that's what
The
happened.
Jedi are good.
This isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it.
This is about power and who is allowed to use it. And holy crap, in a sense, you know, that is really what's being shown here. And Leslye is saying, like, I have the power now, and I am allowed to use the power, and I am going to shove this steaming hot pile of trash down your throat. So I just don't think I care anymore. I don't know that I want to talk about this anymore. And I think many people are in the same boat. Don't watch this show. Don't give Disney your money. Definitely don't give Leslye Headland the joy of having the views. Like, she doesn't need to be in this business anymore. She got hired for the wrong job. She had the wrong motivations and intentions coming in, and it sucks. Bail on it. This show really blows.
When's it gonna be enough, huh? How close do you have to get? Talk to me! Joe, things go wrong. You can't explain it. You can't predict it.
Things go wrong. You can't explain it. You can't predict it. And that's what's happened here. And we just have to accept it at this point. Disney bought Star Wars, and now we're all eating a big crap sandwich. So until the news tomorrow, guys, this has been another Acolyte grift.